Welcome back, everybody. We're here, Read the Line, Celebrity Guest Picker Show. I'm your host, Keith Stewart, writer of Read the Line, and I have a very special guest today. I have with us John Rathouz. John was a caddy on the PGA Tour. He is now a content creator and correspondent for the Caddy Network. It's super popular. Check it out. I love John's stuff, and I love his take on what's going on the PGA Tour. He does make some predictions, so having been out there and now in our space, he is the perfect guest. John, welcome to Read the Line.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Keith. It's good to be here talking with you, and I'm stoked golf is back. Last week started off.
Oh, man, I tell you, last week I had Cam Smith, hit the props hard, did well there, and the matchups, they just seemed to kind of fall into place. I had some crazy stories. I needed Daniel Berger to three-putt on the last hole to get JT in the top five. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I mean, how does Daniel Berger three-putt from 20 feet on that hole? I mean, it's just a great week to get started. Now we go to our first full field event, though, the Sony Open, Wailea Country Club. The main reason I wanted to bring you on, I think you've been there 5, 6, 7 times working.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this golf course.
Well, man, it's one of my favorite golf courses on tour. And I would say, I always tell people it's the most well-routed golf course on tour. And what I mean by that is very subtle dog legs, and then also the way that the wind impacts shots. You have holes that kind of seem to run parallel to each other, but don't quite. So you have, as a caddy, you got to be on your toes out there. And as a player, I mean, it's a really fun golf course. If it's not too windy, you can make a ton of birdies, but the greens are kind of tricky with the grain, and it's not long, but you have to kind of get it in the fairway. If you're in the rough, it's kind of tough to survive all week long. I was really fascinated to see Bryson this week, and then it was kind of disappointed to see he pulled out last minute.
Yeah, I guess a wrist injury or something.
Is that what it was? I didn't know. I had talked to his caddy over the weekend for our Under the Strap podcast, and I was interested to see what they were going to do. So that's interesting to know that update.
That's what I heard online. Twitter's right 50% of the time, maybe. What was interesting was that there had to be something going on, because he was one of the few people in that field at Kapalua that was negative strokes gained off the tee, which is his bread and butter. So It is a bummer we don't get to see what Bryson gets to do with all these dog legs. Now, speaking of dog legs, coming down the stretch on this golf course, a lot of the holes move right to left.
True.
People are talking about you have to putt well, you have to hit greens in regulation. You worked there. Mm-hmm. You were trying to make a check there. Yeah. What do you think is the key to scoring well at Wailea?
Well, I think being in the fairway is huge, like I just said. And then I think being a good Bermuda putter. I mean, it's one of those courses, interestingly, where a guy will show up first week of the year. So you got the back to school vibes too. You never know what kind of preparation what form are they going to have coming in. And so I feel like if you're a guy that, putts good on Bermuda and can make a lot of birdies, you'll see guys that get to, 15, 20 under par, and then you'll see some guys that can barely even get to 2, 3 under par. And so it's some guys really like this place, some don't. But in the fairway and a good Bermuda putter, I think, is really two of the most important keys, and making a lot of birdies, a guy that makes birdies.
All right, you talk about making birdies and making putts. I've been dying to ask somebody who would be in the know this question, and you would definitely be in the know. Greens books. Is it, we make a big deal about a lot of things on the Golf Channel and in golf media and stuff. Is that really going to be that big of a deal this year?
Yeah, because everybody's kind of going to be in the same boat, maybe it'll wash as it goes along. I think at first it's going to be interesting to see how caddies and players kind of, handle their time management. I do think it's going to favor the guys that are naturally good putters, good green readers, some of those guys that were kind of getting by on it. And I do think it was a really useful tool. So I think some guys are really going to miss it. But, as they get going, I think they're going to fall into new routines that help them putt better. It'll be interesting to see the stats at the end of the year. I would say, some guys might find themselves putting better without this crutch, and others might struggle a little bit. But, by and large, I don't think it's going to be as big a story at the end of the year as it is here at the beginning.
I kind of tend to agree with you. Now, you talk about guys that don't struggle. Let's get right into it, okay? Mm-hmm. Of the favorites, I think there's 6 or 7 guys, which is a lot, over 10,000 on DraftKings. Right. So you've got a good group of favorites here. Who do you like in the favorites this week in the Sony Open?
Well, I was looking at it last night, and I'd love to bet Cam Smith, and I'd love to bet Webson's an unbelievable record there. I'm still new on the gambling scene. Those aren't great odds for those two. The guy I jumped on right away, 2 or 3 guys in the 20 to 1 range, Mark Leishman, love him this week. He's been playing good in the fall. He played good last week. I noticed that he's had 4 top 10s here. 3 of them have come in events when he played the week before at the Tournament of Champions, which is what happened for him last week. So I love Leishman this week. Knows the golf course, in good form. Really like Corey Connors this week. He's at 22-1. Interesting guy there. Like Corey, awesome ball striker, maybe not as much of a good putter. But if you look at how he's putted at Wiley, he's gained over 5 strokes 2 out of the 3 times he's played here. And so he knows these greens, and they're interesting greens. They're very flat. There's some grain changes in them. So he sees these greens really well. And then the third guy that's kind of a favorite at 28-1 is Kevin Na, which there's been some back-to-back winners here before. And most of the guys that have done it have won it 2 years in a row. And Kevin, I think his ball striking is better than it was last year when he was here. And he was in some good form last week as well.
All right, a lot of what you're bringing up there, horses for courses. Mm-hmm. Now, it's well known that this event has been at this golf course for a long time. You know, almost 60 years, right? 1965 was the first edition. So is this one of those places like an Augusta National, like a Torrey Pines, where horses for courses? Because Leishman has a great record there. You jump right on him. You've worked there. Do you feel like it's one of those places where guys get comfortable?
I do. I think you see a lot of guys that have had a ton of success there. I mean, I was tempted to pull the trigger on Charles Howell this week. Like I mentioned, Webb, there's other guys in that list that just do well here every time they show up. And I do think it has a lot to do with the greens. And I think it has a lot to do with patience off the tee and seeing the variety of wind directions. So I just think it's a tough one to roll out of your bed first tournament of the year. If you've never played here before, you're a rookie. It's a little tricky. So I think I don't think every week's that way. I think I have a tendency to probably value the horses for courses theory a little bit more than a lot of, sharps would think you should. Okay. So, I'm already in that boat, but I do think this course definitely is one where you should look to guys that have played well here before.
I mean, Chucky Three Sticks, he's been there 20 times and he's made 20 cuts.
Never won, but yeah,
something.
Always there.
Always there. All right. How about a long shot then? Is Charles Howell III the long shot? I mean, who do you have over, let's say, 40 or 50-1, and maybe even 100-1? Who do you got?
I'll give you my 3 here, or 2. Okay. I'm going to stick on Matt Jones this week. He got hot last weekend. He's an Aussie. That's kind of been a narrative that's played well here, and he shot 63-64 on the weekend here last year. So I like Matt Jones at 40. He
just shot 123 on the weekend at Kapalua. Hot. I mean, the guy, he's like a volcano. I mean, it's unbelievable how hot he is.
He's like a volcano. And my one thing about Matt this week, though, is I think the winds are going to be a little lighter, and he kind of excels in the winds and the ball striking showing off. So you're going to need to be a little better putter this week, I feel like. Further down the board, a guy that I really like this week is Tom Hoagie at 80-1. Okay. Kind of a random one. I mean, he still hasn't won on tour. He's got a third here before, and he finished 4th at the RSM in the fall. Interesting little insight. His caddy, Henry Diana, great looper, longtime caddy for Charles Howell III. So, and Henry's very active on the greens with Tom. So I don't know. Tom Hoagie out of the gates at 80-1. I think that's kind of a fun little bet there.
I mean, that's a great insight. All right. So, I mean, Charles Howell III making all those cuts there and his caddy moving over to Tom Hoagie. That's a good – all right. You had one more long shot, I think?
Well, I was interested, too, on Denny McCarthy at 66-1, been playing really good, has never played here before. But when you look at the stat models and stuff, fantastic. But probably the best Bermuda putter on tour. And so you're like, oh, man, I want to throw a Denny in there. But here, to our conversation earlier, he's never played here before. So, it's hard to pull the trigger on that. I was also looking at Chris Kirk at 66-1 as well. I don't know. Who are you on this week?
Okay, so if you're talking about the favorites, I'm going to go chalk. I'm going to be boring. I had Cam Smith last week. I like Webb Simpson. Yeah. I just feel like Webb Simpson is being ignored. He was top 10 in the world at one point, no more than a year ago. And now he's just one of those guys. He got snuffed on the Ryder Cup team. I think those guys need that form of, locker room motivation, right? And I love the way he fits this golf course. But here's really the guy that I love this week. I love Billy Horschel.
Mm.
And the reason being is that Fooch loves this fit for him.
Yeah.
Now, we don't love that fit for Billy at Kapalua, but I love the fit for Billy here. And he's played well there, well here at Wiley before. So this is the guy right there. And if you look at the last couple of years, everybody's been in that 40, 50, 60 to 1 range. So you got to find one of those guys. There's a reason why that's the case. The trend is your friend for a reason. And I think Billy's kind of my guy in the middle there that I think could do something special. I mean, everyone's all over Leishman. I get that. He's like 20, 25 to 1. You can get Webb at almost 20 to 1. And if you were going head to head, I mean, which one are you going to take for 10 straight tournaments at Wiley? Right?
For sure.
Probably Webb.
I like that you can find Webb at 20 to 1. And Billy Horschel call is great. I mean, he playing good in the fall, winter over in Europe, in good form. He references Caddy Fooch there. So, yeah, Fooch likes Billy here. I like Billy here.
Hey, I had Fooch was on as a celebrity guest picker, just like you, for the Hero. Because, he was with Rosie for so long. Rosie lives at Albany. He broke it down for us. He had Morikawa. So, I mean, the trend is your friend too, John. I mean, I think Leishman is somebody definitely to jump on. Real quick before we go, a couple other things. Any props you're going to have some fun with this week?
I didn't look at the props much, but one occurred to me that might not be a bad one that's been on an every other year trend is a playoff. Okay. I think that'd be an interesting one to take a look at just because I think the weather's going to be good this week. Lots of birdies. So a guy could get hot, but then you've got that par 5 finishers too. And so, a chance to make an eagle or a birdie. So I don't know. That'd be an interesting one to take a peek at.
If you go fantasy at all, I know you've mentioned Hoagie, you mentioned McCarthy. How about in that $7,000, $6,000 range? Some of the guys, we don't know their names, but they're going to perform well there. Is there a name you have in there that you could throw out for my readers?
Yeah, that's a good one there. I don't know. I mean, I don't think there would be anything wrong with. I'm sure that's probably where Charles Howell falls in the fantasy. I don't know. I don't have the pricing in front of me, but
I'm sure he's not. If he's 8,000, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think I would go. I would just Tom Hoagie is where I'm at.
All right.
In that range. I think he's not going to be super high owned. And I think he's playing really good golf right now.
All right. One last thing from you. You're playing a one and done. You already said you love Leishman. Would you use Leishman here at the Sony, or do you save him for later in the season? I mean, the guy's a major player, right? Who's your one and done pick this week? I'm going to put you on the spot, but people love these one and dones now. They're gaining in popularity. So we got to be thinking about them. For my readers, House.
Let's do it. Got? Let's play Leishman. His caddy is good friends with Cam Smith's caddy. They're just going to go sweep Hawaii. And, I like Leishman this week. He loves Bermuda. He just loves it. Now, he has that interesting record at Torrey Pines. So you're like, I want to save him for Torrey. He's playing good right now. He's hungry. Hasn't won in a while. I'm going to stick with Leishman.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm not sure who mine's going to be yet, but I'm leaning Leishman for sure.
Okay.
I feel like there's no time like the present to use them.
Right.
I always go back to this statistic. Golfers make roughly 80% of their earnings in a 6-week span. So Mark's top 10 last week. He was good at the QBE. The guy's playing well. He's in good form. He's played well there before. I think he makes a lot of sense. So I definitely agree with you there.
All right. I like it, Keith.
All right, man. So House, this was great. I really appreciate you taking the time. We're going to have to do it again because I love your insights. And I mean, every golf course. So, I mean, you obviously I could feel it today, how much you're going to help everybody. So I appreciate you coming on Read the Line and being our celebrity guest picker for the Sony Open.
Dude, thanks. Anytime.
All right. Appreciate it.